Book of Heaven Volume 3 by Luisa Piccarreta. Page 80–85. May 29, 1900. Threat of chastisements. Jesus is abandoned and left alone. Continuing in the same state, I felt all oppressed and I had all the need of a support to be able to bear the privation of my highest good. Having compassion for me, blessed Jesus showed his face from within my heart for a few minutes, but not with clarity, and letting me hear his most gentle voice, he told me, "Courage, my daughter, just a little longer. Let me finish chastising, for afterwards I will come as before." While he was saying this, in my mind I said, "What are the chastisements that you have begun to send?" And he added, "The continuous rain that is pouring is more than hail, and it will cause sad consequences for the people." Having said this, he disappeared, and I found myself outside of myself, inside a garden. From there one could see crops withered in the vineyards, and within myself I kept saying, poor people, how shall they go on?" While I was saying this, a little boy appeared in that garden, crying and screaming so loud as to deafen heaven and earth, but no one had compassion for him. Even though everyone could hear him crying so much, they would not bother with him and they would leave him abandoned and alone. A thought flashed within me, who knows whether he is Jesus? But I was not sure about it. So, drawing near him, I said, "What is it, that you are crying, dear child? Do you want to come with me, since they all left you prey to tears and to sorrow, which oppresses you so much as to make you scream so loud?" But nothing. Who could calm him down? He just barely answered with his sobs that, yes, he wanted to come. So I took him by the hand to bring him with me, and in the very act one was doing this I found myself inside myself. June 3, 1900. Luisa, chosen among 1,000. Lack of esteem for others is lack of true humility. This morning, as I was in my usual state, I saw my adorable Jesus for a little while, present inside my heart, sleeping, and his sleep drew my soul to fall asleep together with him. So much so, that I felt all my interior powers asleep, without acting any more. At times I tried to get out of that sleep, but I could not. Then blessed Jesus woke up for a little while and sent his breath into me 3 times, and it seemed to me that he became all absorbed in me. Afterwards, it seemed to me that Jesus was drawing those 3 breaths he had sent me back into himself again, and I found myself all transformed in him. Who can say what was happening in me because of these divine breaths? I have no words to express that inseparable union between Jesus and me. After this, it seems I was able to wake up, and Jesus, breaking the silence, told me, "My daughter, I looked and looked again, I searched and searched again, going throughout the whole earth, but upon you I fixed my gazes and I found my satisfactions, and I chose you among 1,000. Then, turning to certain people I could see, he reprimanded them, saying to them, "Lack of esteem for others is lack of true Christian humility and of sweetness, because a humble and sweet spirit knows how to respect everyone and interprets the things of others always for the good." Having said this, he disappeared, without my saying to him even a word. May he be always blessed, for he wants it this way, and may everything be for his glory. June 6, 1900. Luisa, crucified, spares Corrado some chastisements. Since my adorable Jesus continued not to let himself be seen with clarity, this morning, after I received communion, the confessor placed the intention of the crucifixion. While I was amid those sufferings, almost drawn by my pains, blessed Jesus showed himself with clarity. Oh God! Who can say the pains that Jesus was suffering and the violent state he was in, that while he was forced to send chastisements, he did such violence to himself, for he did not want to send them. It aroused such compassion to see him in this state, that if men could see him, even if their hearts were hard as diamonds, they would break with tenderness like fragile glass. So I began to pray him to placate himself and to be content with making me suffer, sparing the people. Then I added, "Lord, if you do not want to listen to my prayers, I know I deserve that. If you do not want to have compassion for the peoples, you are right, because great are our iniquities. But I ask you, for pity's sake, to have compassion for yourself. Have pity on the violence you do to yourself in punishing your images." Ah, yes! I ask you, for love of yourself, not to send chastisements to the point of taking bread away from your children and letting them perish. Ah, no. It is not in the nature of your heart to operate in this way. And this is the reason for the violence you feel, which would give you death if it had the power to. And he, all afflicted, told me, My daughter, it is justice that makes violence on me, and the love I have for men uses even greater violence on me, such as to put my heart into anguishes of death in punishing the creatures. And I, therefore, Lord, unload justice upon me, and your love will no longer feel violence from justice, and will not be in this contrast of chastising the people, who, truly, how will they go on if you act as you let me understand, withering all that serves as nourishment of man? Oh, please, I beg you, let me suffer and spare them, if not completely, at least in part. And Jesus, as though seeing himself forced by my prayers, drew near my mouth and poured a little bit of bitterness from his, dense and disgusting, such that, as soon as I swallowed it, it caused me such and so many kinds of pains that I felt I was dying. Then blessed Jesus, sustaining me in those pains, otherwise I would have been dead. Yet, he had poured nothing but a little bit. What must it be for his adorable heart that contained so much of it? Heaved a sigh as if he had relieved himself of a weight, and told me, My daughter, my justice had decided to destroy everything, but now, unloading itself a little bit over you, for love of you, concedes 1/3 of what serves as nourishment of man. And I, Ah, Lord, it is too little, at least half. And he, No, my daughter, content yourself. And I, No, Lord, if you do not want to content me for everyone, at least content me for Corrado and for those who belong to me. And Jesus, today there is hail ready, which must cause great damage. You, remain with the pains of the cross, go out of yourself and in the form of the crucified go through the air and put to flight the demons from above Corrado, since they will not be able to resist the crucified image, and will go somewhere else. So I went out of myself, crucified, and I saw hail and lightnings which were about to break out over Corrado. Who can say the fright of the demons, how they took to their heels at the sight of my crucified form, how they bit their fingers out of rage, and reached the point of getting angry with the confessor, who this morning had given me the obedience of suffering the crucifixion. In fact, they could not get angry with me. On the contrary, they were forced to flee from me because of the sign of redemption which they saw. Then, after putting them to flight, I went back into myself, finding myself with a good dose of sufferings. May everything be for the glory of God. June 7, 1900. Jesus delivers to Luisa the keys of justice and a light to unveil it. As I was somehow in suffering, it seemed to me that those sufferings were a sweet chain that drew my good Jesus to come almost continuously, and it seemed to me that those pains called Jesus to pour more bitternesses into me. So, on coming, now he would sustain me in his arms to give me strength, now he would pour again. However, every now and then I would say to him, Lord, now that I feel within me part of your pains, I beg you to content me, as I said to you yesterday, by giving me at least half of what serves as nourishment of man. And he, My daughter, in order to content you, I deliver to you the keys of justice and the knowledge of how absolutely necessary it is to punish man, and with this you will do whatever you please. Aren't you content? On hearing him say this to me I was consoled, and I said in my interior, If it is up to me, I will not chastise anyone at all. But how I lost my illusion when blessed Jesus gave me a key and placed me in the middle of a light, such that by looking from within that light I could see all the attributes of God, and also that of justice. Oh, how everything is orderly in God! And if justice punishes, this is order, and if it did not punish, it would not be in order with the other attributes. So I saw myself as a wretched worm in the middle of that light, for if I wanted to prevent the course of justice, I would ruin that order and would go against men themselves, because I understood that justice itself is most pure love toward them. I found myself all confused and embarrassed, and so, to get rid of it, I said to our Lord, Through this light with which you have surrounded me I understand things differently, and if you leave it up to me, I would do worse than you do. Therefore I do not accept this knowledge and I renounce the keys of justice. What I accept and want is that you make me suffer and spare the people. As for the rest, I don't want to know anything about it." And Jesus, smiling at my words, said to me, "How quickly you want to get rid of it, without wanting to know reason, and wanting to use greater violence on me. You come out with 2 words, make me suffer and spare them." And I, "Lord, it is not that I don't want to know reason, but it is because this is not my office, but yours. My office is that of being victim. Therefore, you do your office and I do mine. Isn't it true, my dear Jesus?" And he, as though showing approval, disappeared from me.